Part 29. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 281. Goodfellow, Minerva couldn't help but take a breath of cold air when she heard this. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. I knew you would never do a business at a loss. No wonder you insisted on arranging these rogues to live in the shelter first. Are you planning to keep them all? Tisk tisk, amazing, amazing. Looking at Minerva sighing there, as if she was also accidentally abducted by Rogue on the ship without knowing it, Rogue smiled slightly, put down the dishes and chopsticks he had finished eating, and stood up from the bench. I'll leave it to you. After saying this to Minerva, he walked out of the restaurant with 3 steps and 3 shakes. From this moment on, Minerva officially became a resident of the second shelter from a resident of Rogue Town. This is why he used the word Minerva before when he arranged the position and identity for Gialia and compared it with Minerva. After being betrayed by her teammates and even her junior sister, neither Ruger nor Minerva herself would let her stay in the Rogue Town system. In this case, she officially joined the second shelter, which became the best and most likely the only choice. She knew this, and Ruger also understood it. So from the moment she returned to the shelter, she also regarded herself as a member of the shelter. So the first question Ruger asked was not whether she would stay, but what position he should give her. After all, they were comrades who had fought together, and the two had enough tacit understanding. After coming out of the cafeteria, Ruger went to see Gialia's situation again. Her treatment was better than Anya, who was deliberately treated as a prisoner of war. However, Anya was nominally of Ruger's bloodline. Although she had always claimed to be a prisoner of war at first, her treatment was actually not bad. It was just that there were more cameras around the single room where she lived. Of course, if she didn't know, she wouldn't mind. In order to educate Anya, Ruger would remind her that there were invisible eyes watching her all the time. But now Gialia, she naturally didn't need to know. However, seeing Anya trying to hold back her laughter while introducing her previous prisoner of war barracks to Gialia, Ruger felt that if the female undead didn't know that there was something wrong with this house, it would be a waste of her growth. Looking outside the door, seeing that Anya was chatting with this female undead, Ruger couldn't help but chuckle and shook his head, thinking, let them be. Children, they always have to have a friend to chat with. Just be careful not to be taught badly. His fatherly style is back. After walking around the shelter again, after Tia, who led her men to help the rogues settle down, finished her work, he followed Tia back to the alchemy workshop. While Tia was settling the rogues, she naturally learned the news from them about Rogue Town. Especially the news of the death of Kasha and Akara. Both of them were elders who watched her grow up, and they had a good relationship with her adoptive mother's family and her biological parents' family, and they took care of her since she was a child. She naturally felt bad when she heard that these two heavyweights died one after another. However, the reason why she left Rogue Town with Ruger and built her own home from scratch was more or less related to the powerlessness of the two. Even more radically, it was they who gave up protecting Tia and her alchemy workshop first, and allowed the people of the cult to suppress and exclude her in various ways, which led to her having to leave Rogue Town. They are not without responsibility here. However, the dead are gone, and the debts are cleared when people die. Since they have passed away, Tia will naturally not hate their mistakes and faults, but will more recall their past affection and affection. Ruger, who was holding Tia and listening to her talk about her worries while comforting her, couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Our Tia is really a kind-hearted child. After spending some time with Tia, Ruger finally walked over to Sarah, who was still disguised as an ordinary rogue patrolman, who walked back and forth between the alchemy workshop and the repair shop. Under Tia's suspicious gaze, Ruger took Sarah in a Fennec Fox armored reconnaissance vehicle and finally left the shelter in the name of patrol. Fennec Fox is a wheeled reconnaissance vehicle, which is also known as the African Fox. It has thin armor and weak firepower, but it can only be described in one word: fast. It may be the fastest armored vehicle in Ruger's hands except for the Mercedes-Benz G-Series. And compared with the G-Series, it is not only fully enclosed, but also has a huge advantage, that is, the interior is large enough to hold many things. For example, Ruger's full set of self-made Iron Man armor. Especially after removing the radio and other electronic equipment that could not be used anyway, Ruger directly replaced the main weapon of this Fennec Fox from a 40mm high-speed grenade launcher to a 30mm rapid-fire cannon. This makes it fast enough to deal with nightmare-level monsters with a number of less than 20 or 30. In addition, although its thermal imager, high-definition camera, laser rangefinder and other equipment are no longer usable, Ruger has also added a high-magnification adjustable optical observation mirror to it. It is definitely enough for reconnaissance in the dark world. The only thing that will be criticized by those who know the business is that this thing has been modified by Ruger. In addition to speed, it has completely lost its significance as a replacement for the previous generation of Lynx armored reconnaissance vehicles. However, there is no way around it. Special environment, special means are not. Ruger drove this thing out. On the one hand, he could use it as an excuse to scout the situation, and on the other hand, he really wanted to use the speed of this thing to see the situation in Rogue Town. So after leaving the second shelter, he really drove the Fennec Fox all the way west and ran to Rogue Town again. Now, there is no Rogue left in Rogue Town. It seems that the cult is really going to change its name. As he walked, Ruger broke the awkward silence and sighed. Sarah, who was thinking about her own things, was slightly stunned, and then smiled bitterly. Yes. There is not a single rogue left in Rogue Town. The big-headed rogue troops are at the front line. The only thing to be thankful for is that the rogue troops have now pushed the front line directly to the Blind Sisters Monastery, which is considered to be back to the real home of the rogues. However, they still have to guard against the monster army that may attack from the cathedral at any time. The small-headed rogue city guards were left in the second shelter by Ruger. From the task he assigned to Minerva to solve the personal problems of human guards or the single problem, it is clear that he did not intend to let these rogue patrol guards leave. At least he did not intend to let all of them leave. In the end, Rogue only had some senior officials who were too old to go to the battlefield, and the guards who were responsible for their safety. The former, such as Akara and Kasha, have both passed away. The latter, such as Akara's guards, have also left Rogue Town and are missing. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 282. The third oldest person in Rogue Town after Kasha and Akara is a rogue guard in his 40s. The remaining senior officials are between 30 and 40, which is the age when physical strength and wisdom reach a delicate balance. Such rogues will definitely not leave the battle. If they are not on the front line, they will definitely become patrol guards or even personal guards. So in fact, there are no real rogues among the other senior officials in Rogue Town. They can only be regarded as civilian staff of the Blind Sisters. For example, mages. So, Sarah's words seem to be a joke, but they are really true. There is no rogue in the dignified Rogue Town. But it's good this way. Now it's really a 3-3 system. Ruger sighed for a while, but half jokingly. 3-3 system, Sarah was puzzled. Look, we humans are one party, monsters are the second party, and those ghosts are the third party. Aren't we three parties in this land in a tripod? Ruger smiled slightly. Now, humans have become your rogue troops, my second shelter, and them, the Paladin Order. Isn't this another three-way confrontation? 3 points within a three-pointer, isn't this the 3-3 system? Ruger was just playing a joke that Chinese people are more familiar with, but the words were unintentional, and the listeners took them seriously. In Sarah's ears, these words had a different flavor. 3 points and 3 points? there is a cunning demon behind the Paladin Order. So whether the Order is considered a human force is actually a big question mark. Ruger knew this. But what he didn't know was that Sarah also knew this. What he didn't know even more was that because Sarah knew, Sarah had actually guessed that he knew from some of the details he showed when dealing with the Order. It seems a bit messy. Let me start from the beginning. Ruger knew that the Paladin Order was controlled by the cunning demon. Sarah also knew. Ruger didn't know that Sarah knew. But Sarah knew that Ruger knew. But Sarah didn't know whether Ruger knew that she knew. So when she heard Ruger talking about the 3-3 system, she naturally thought too much. It seems even more confusing. In fact, Sarah's thoughts are not difficult to understand. Ruger said that the first layer of 3-3 is human ghost monster. The second layer of 3-3 is Ruger rogue paladin. In Sarah's eyes, the paladin of the second layer is actually the same force as the monster of the first layer. At least, she thinks that Ruger should think so. And Ruger's force is obviously human, so the first layer of 3-3 corresponds to the second layer of 3-3. Then, there is only one category left for the two layers of 3-3, ghost and rogue. This is why Sarah's heartbeat slightly accelerated after listening to Ruger's 3-3 system joke. It seems very absurd to match rogue with ghost. Could it be that there is a relationship between rogue and ghost, just like the relationship between the Paladin Order and the Hell Demon? However, Sarah knew in her heart that there was. However, her heartbeat only slightly accelerated, but she did not panic immediately. Because, confessing this matter was the reason why she tried her best to ask Ruger to come out and talk alone. At least one of the reasons. Actually, you have guessed it, right, Sarah thought about it and simply took the initiative to bring up this matter. With your ability, I think you have already suspected me a long time ago, maybe when we first met. Your attitude towards me at that time seemed a little distant and a little wary. Hearing Sarah say this, Ruger was also slightly startled, recalling the scene when he first met Sarah. That was still in the mysterious underground city, in the underground secret base of the underground World War II arsenal. When Ruger rescued Tia, who was transformed by the Radom tree, he also rescued Sarah, who was also transformed by the iron. At that time, Sarah had a mature and older sister charm that could not be concealed, and she used her beauty to tease or stimulate Ruger's nerves without concealment. Because after being transformed by the iron, all her clothes were decomposed into energy and evaporated. At that time, Ruger was alert to her because he thought, nothing comes easy unless it's a lie or a trap. What's more, her name is Sarah Kerrigan. There's no way. Any time traveler who meets a red-haired ponytailed woman named Sarah Kerrigan in the Diablo world will be alert. The human form of the interstellar Zerg Blade Queen appeared in the dark world next door. Is she crazy? Although he was just on guard instinctively at first, it's true that after that, he really noticed many suspicious points about Sarah. However, because those suspicious points didn't affect him, he wouldn't take the initiative to expose them. There's no chance, and no reason. But now, from what she said, is she going to take the initiative to confess? Thinking of this, Ruger nodded and naturally gave Sarah an inquiring look. I knew it seeing him nod and admit that he had doubts about her. Sarah couldn't help but smile bitterly. Although she had guessed it long ago and it was even 99% confirmed, she still felt mixed emotions when she got the person's admission. Well, it's time to confess. I want to say in advance that I have no ill will towards you and the people around you from the beginning to the end. The reason why I confess to you is because I want to get your sincere help. I want to accomplish something that has never been done before, and I'm afraid it will never be done again, but it will have a decisive effect on the survival of this world. Your help may be my only chance of success. After laying the groundwork for a while, seeing that Ruger's eyes were serious enough, Sarah paused, took a deep breath, and then continued. Actually, I don't only have the identity of Commander Rog. I also have a special identity that is hostile to humans and you to some extent. I just want to say that once I fully control that identity in the true sense, that identity will no longer be enemies with humans, but will become friends and even allies who can ally with each other and rely on each other. Actually, I am. Just as Sarah said the charming new pope word by word, Ruger said another name. Queen of Pain Andariel. What? Sarah was so shocked by the name Luger said that she almost jumped up from her seat. Me? Andariel. Seeing Sarah looking at him in shock with her mouth wide open, Luger couldn't help but reach out and touch his nose to relieve his embarrassment, and sighed with some scorn, "Ah, so you are the charming Pope." After saying that, he felt that his words were not full of emotion. He quickly adjusted his tone and said in a shocked tone again, "What? Are you actually the new Pope? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi. Chapter 283. Actually, Luger had suspected that Sarah was Andariel for more than a day or two. There isn't much reason either. It's just that Sarah Kerrigan's character is too similar to Andariel's character. They all have red hair and have back ornaments like bone wings or bone claws. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Furthermore, the character positions in the two works are somewhat similar, and both are considered enemy bosses. In addition, in the early quasi-official sketchbook of the Chinese version of Diablo 2, the Chinese translator seemed to have compiled a story about Andariel turning into a demon due to betrayal. In Ruger's view, that story is exactly the same as the story of Sarah Kerrigan being betrayed by humans and being transformed into the Queen of Blades by the Zerg. Therefore, his suspicion actually did not have much evidence, it was just a vague intuition. Seeing Ruger pretending to be surprised and showing off, Sarah was so shocked that she slowly closed her mouth, but couldn't help but smile bitterly. "You're pretending to be real," she smiled bitterly. "I've known it for a long time, so why don't you stop playing tricks?" Luger was told that he touched his nose in embarrassment again. "What I didn't expect was that you actually thought I was Andariel." Ruger was even more embarrassed when Sarah said this. "It's really embarrassing to feel like you finally made a big gamble and lost so much that you don't have any pants left." The key is that he can't tell Sarah the process of his guess. "I can't even explain it, I'm really at a loss for words, I'm just embarrassed." As for Sarah being the mysterious new pope, Ruger had of course already guessed this. After all, there were too many clues before. Based on what happened in the enchanted dungeon, Luger had even suspected Old Noise. Would he still doubt Sarah? Yes, he also doubted Taya. However, our Taya is such a good child, she will definitely not hide it from me. With this mentality, he eliminated his doubts about Taya early on. In addition, when she asked for someone from the cult at the gate of Rogtown, Sarah took the initiative to leave. As a result, not long after she left, Jamae took the initiative to attack Rogtown for the first time. Moreover, Jamae did not commit any crime against the other people in Rogtown. She only focused on the religious group and gave them a beating. Her goal was very clear. After the beating, he left as soon as he could, never dragging his feet. Adding up these performances, if Luger didn't know in his heart that he was not the new pope of the evil spirits, he would have doubted whether these evil spirits were arranged by himself. Since he wasn't, Sarah, who had a similar position to him and acted in a similar way, and who was still missing at the time, was naturally his biggest suspect. When Sarah came back and acted like she had something to tell him, he knew better. Talking about Andariel, as mentioned before, it was just a big gamble that he let his instincts go. Seeing Luger's embarrassment, Sarah smiled helplessly and shook her head. "Oh, you guys are always so unexpected. I never expected that you would guess that I am Andariel." "How on earth did you guess that?" "What, Ruger smiled slightly awkwardly while listening, wanting Sarah to finish the topic quickly and let it go. Unexpectedly, Sarah suddenly made such a move. This time, it was his turn to be shocked. You, what did you say? Are you really Andariel? Seeing him like this, Sarah was no longer calm. She looked at him in astonishment and asked, huh? Are you really relying on guessing? No, what else? Luger smiled bitterly. Here, you guy. Sarah couldn't help but smile bitterly, but she raised her hand and punched him to vent her teeth-itching anger. Sarah's punch was just a symbolic way to vent her feelings, and it didn't hurt. But Luger still pretended to be in pain and covered his shoulders. Because of this, it is easier for her to vent her resentment. Sure enough, seeing him like this, Sarah also felt a little embarrassed. After all, she is a high-level rogue, a charming new pope, and Andariel, the Queen of Pain. Although she deliberately controlled her strength, Luger was only an ordinary lost human in name, and she was afraid that she might have hurt him accidentally. As a result, she also started rubbing Luger with an apologetic expression. While rubbing it, she asked, "Are you feeling better? Did the beating really hurt you?" For a moment, the atmosphere in the carriage became ambiguous and strange. Finally, it must be said that Luger had extraordinary concentration, forced himself to calm down, and coughed hard. Sitting upright in the original commander's seat that had been converted into a driver's seat, he didn't even look at Sarah, who was on the right-hand side of the observer and weapon control hand, and just looked at himself and said, "What on earth is going on? You are the mysterious new pope, I can understand this. It's probably because I killed the charming former Pope E52. You, a Tegeman warrior transformed by the mysterious tree, got some key inheritance from that base, so you succeeded E52 as the Pope. Right." Having said this, he couldn't help but look at Sarah's expression with the corner of his eye. Seeing that she had no objection, he quickly withdrew his eyes and continued. "This is quite simple and clear, so I won't go into details. But, you are Andariel? What's going on here? Also, what about Tia's parents? Didn't they go to the cathedral to challenge Andariel, but were killed by the Demon King? Did you kill them? No, that's not right. Isn't your name taken from Tia's father? What about the Andariel under the cathedral now? Could it be that the one leading the monsters there now is another Demon King? What's going on here?" Seeing that he was sitting upright, but after asking one question after another, he tilted his head involuntarily. Sarah wanted to laugh, but also felt helpless. She could only slowly say, "You have too many questions. Which one should I answer first?" "Forget it, I'll start from the beginning. For a long time, the high heaven and the burning hell have been fighting endlessly in countless worlds. Gradually, some individuals on both sides got tired of this meaningless chopping. In a remote corner of the universe, they used a divine artifact called the World Stone to build a paradise of their own, where they multiplied and left offspring. That place is here. No, it should be said that this land was once part of that place. That is, the sanctuary world. The hybrid of the high heaven and the burning hell is the human here. These powerful humans even have the ability to match or even surpass their angel and demon parents, that is, the Nephilim. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 284. Stop, Ruger interrupted Sarah when he saw that she was actually starting from the beginning and talking about the worldview of Diablo. Good man, if she continued, wouldn't she have to copy the original setting collection again? I know all this, no need to explain it in such detail. Just start with yourself, Andariel. The time limit is the last 20 years. Too short? Then, start from 50 years ago at the earliest. The things before that are not important. I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow dot. Sarah rolled her eyes at him unhappily, and after brewing her emotions for a while, she coughed and continued. 50 years ago, the burning hell invaded the sanctuary world in a large scale, and wanted to release the semi-artifact soul stone sealed here. The three demons were eventually discovered by the Supreme Heaven. The eternal war has once again ignited in this remote world. This time, the burning hell achieved its goal first and released the souls of the three demons. And they also achieved their long-cherished wish to find and control the artifact of this world, the World Stone. But before they had time to celebrate their victory, they were caught up by the Supreme Heaven. In a fight, the World Stone was destroyed by the Supreme Heaven, and most of the two parties involved in the battle at that time disappeared. Isn't this the main plot of the second generation of the game? Ruger couldn't help but sigh, but didn't interrupt Sarah again, but continued to listen patiently. The artifact that created the world of Sanctuary, the World Stone, was shattered, and the world changed forever. Before this, almost everyone thought that the World Stone was just a prop. Although its power is strong, it is just a dead object. However, when it was shattered by the Archangel Tyrael, the entire sanctuary world was shattered with it. At that time, I, Andariel, was also near the World Stone. In a trance, I was swept by a piece of the World Stone and merged into a piece of Sanctuary World fragment, and fell into the void together. When I came out of the void, the entire world fragment fell directly on an unknown continent, and I was also thrown out by the World Stone fragment. That unknown continent is now called the Lost World. Ruger was really shocked. It turns out that the destruction of the World Stone in the game not only made the Sanctuary World lose functions such as invisible sky and protective shields, but also allowed heaven and hell to invade at will. It seems that a new setting later overwrote the original setting, and this function was negated. After returning to the state without the inhibition of the World Stone, the human Nephilim in the original 3 generations were able to grow rapidly, and eventually killed gods and demons, which was very cool. How come in this world, it was destroyed, and even the entire human world collapsed? He was still digesting this information when he heard Sarah continue to say. After the fragment of the World Stone threw me out, it turned into a meteor and disappeared. After I circled around, I found that this was actually a camp where I had been stationed before the war, the Cathedral of the Blind Eye Monastery. The most outrageous thing is that I can't get out of here. This place has become the Dark Soul Stone that seals me. You can't get out, Ruger asked hurriedly, can't get out of the cathedral? Or? Sarah nodded with a bitter smile, and shook her head with a complicated expression. That was my initial idea, and later events proved that I thought too simply. At first, I could only move in the lowest tomb of the cathedral. After trying various means and failing to escape from there, I began to try to contact the burning hell. As a result, hell actually responded to my call. I can gradually contact other demons that exist here, and at the same time, the range of my activities is getting larger and larger. For a long time afterwards, I collected demons and monsters from this world while investigating everywhere. Until I found the rogues and the survivors of this world. From them, I learned that in this unknown world where the fragments of the world fell, humans were defeated by another species and even became extinct. Weird, this is the name given to that species by rogue and humans. Poor lost humans, they thought that some of their actions had caused the world's revenge, so they gave birth to the weird species to replace them. Haha, humans are always so naive. But we are not. From some of the characteristics of weird in the memories of lost humans, I smelled a familiar smell. The stench of the Supreme Heaven. Haha, only then did I realize that these were not accidents at all. This so-called lost world is also one of the thousands of marginal worlds that the Supreme Heaven is conquering. Weird, it's their creation. What? Weird, was created by the Supreme Heaven? What kind of God is this? Ruger was about to say something when he suddenly recalled the nature and structure of the ghost. These beings that originally seemed to be biochemically modified weapons were actually electronic life forms, or artificial intelligence. They have a supercomputer intelligence named Noah who claims to be the Messiah and Savior as their supreme leader. According to the background setting of the prototype of the Lost World, the heavy armor, the supercomputer Noah was originally created by humans to solve the problem of environmental degradation and protect the Earth. But it seems that there is a problem with the underlying logic. The supercomputer Noah believes that in order to fulfill his innate mission, that is, to protect the environment and the Earth, the only way is to exterminate humans. So after a war, human civilization is almost extinct. The history of the Lost World seems to be not much different from this version. The only difference is that Noah in the Lost World is more intelligent than Noah in the heavy armor. He is more like a new life, a new species, and not just a man-made object with logical errors. This Noah created a set of religious beliefs for his race in comparison with the monotheism, which is a clear proof. But now, hearing Sarah say that there is a stench of the supreme heaven in this set of events, this has to make Ruger re-examine this period of history. Could it be that the Noah here was really funded by the supreme heaven? Think about it, in the plot of Diablo 3, the angels of the high heaven once wanted to destroy the entire sanctuary world and all humans. Because humans, although they have the blood of heaven, they also have the blood of hell. The high heaven, especially the angel of courage Imperius, hates everything related to hell, including humans. So, if Imperius is responsible for invading the world of the lost, will he support the pro-high heaven forces among humans like Tyrael, or support an emerging force that has no blood relationship with humans? Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 285. Although the socio-ethical relationship between artificial intelligence and humans seems difficult to define, Ruger cannot deny that an extreme racist like Imperius, who is based on the angels of heaven, is likely to choose to support artificial intelligence. Even if he successfully exterminates humans, it is more likely that he will kill the artificial intelligence race than to support human forces with a pinched nose. What? The humans in the Lost World are not Nephilim, and they should not have the blood of hell. He should not have such a great hatred for the lost humans. This is very difficult to say. In the eyes of racists, appearance is a very important reference factor. Although the humans here do not have the ability of hell blood, they look like Nephilim. Thinking of this, Ruger nodded silently, indicating that he accepted Sarah's statement. Seeing that he really nodded after thinking for a while, Sarah also sighed. This is not the first time she told others the story of the past, but not many people really believed her. To be precise, there are only two, including the man in front of him. After I found out that this strange world was actually a world being invaded by the supreme heaven and was on the verge of death, I wanted to go outside and take a look. But, I failed. I tried countless times over the past few decades, but I couldn't leave at all. Until 20 years ago, that person appeared. He was a lost human from the outside world. His fighting style was completely different from that of the Nephilim. He relied on a tank that he called an all-terrain assault vehicle and had almost no armor, and a few guns, to cause countless troubles for my men everywhere. Speaking of this, Sarah couldn't help but have a trace of reminiscence on her face, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. I won't go into details about what happened in the middle. Don't want to share your good memories with others. Ruger muttered secretly. Anyway, Sarah continued, he eventually came to the cathedral crypt, intending to kill me and get the qualification to leave. It was not until then that I realized that the reason why I couldn't leave here was because I was the only door to leave here. How could a door leave through itself? Sarah smiled bitterly and looked at Ruger. So, from that day on, I had an idea to reincarnate as a human. So that's it? It turned out to be reincarnation. After hearing this, Ruger finally understood how the Andariel-Sarah relationship was established. However, then, did that person succeed? And what about the qualification to leave? Is it the forbidden seal of the supreme heaven? A plan to kill with a borrowed knife, Ruger asked hurriedly. Are you trying to say that he succeeded in killing me? Sarah's face was filled with nostalgia again. He didn't kill me, and he couldn't beat me. He just told me a lot about the outside world. He also listened to me talk about a lot of heaven and hell. He said his name is Rebina, a native lost human born after the Great Extinction, a chariot hunter. However, in order to avoid being hunted by the enemy, he is now using another name, Maximum. Max, although he had guessed it long ago, Ruger still read the name again when he heard this. Yes, that is Tia's biological father. Sarah nodded. He said that he was just a bounty hunter struggling to survive in the end times. During his adventures, he encountered many adventures and finally found the culprit of the world's destruction that most human survivors had forgotten, or deliberately forgotten. The supreme leader who destroyed the world in the name of saving the world, the super artificial intelligence, the prophet Noah. He even found Noah's lair and destroyed it once. But not long after, it was reborn again. Just as it wrote in the scriptures it preached to its men, it is immortal, it is the Messiah. Max didn't believe in evil. He thought that if he could kill the other party once, he could naturally kill it the second, third, and nth time. But he was wrong. The other party is not a dead thing. It will not stay there stupidly and let him try again and again. Not only is it not a stupid dead thing, it has a strong learning ability. It is so strong that it even sent a special hunting team to search everywhere for the legendary strongest bounty hunter Rebina's whereabouts. So, he had to change his name and even gave up his previous fighting style, and learned another set of fighting skills from scratch with his friends. After that, he continued to travel this ruined world, looking for more clues, looking for a way to solve Noah once and for all. As a result, he found that a prop that he had obtained for a long time but ignored for a long time because its energy was almost exhausted, might be the key to breaking the situation. Following the instructions given to him by the prop when the energy was almost gone, he found a place where he could replenish the energy of that thing. Here. This area is shrouded in fog and is called the Forest of No Return. This is his story. And after listening to my story, he immediately understood that the mystery of Noah's immortality was not as simple as he thought before. If the supreme heaven behind Noah does not stop, even if he kills Noah, the next Messiah will appear. So, he decided to join forces with me. Sarah said this, smiling helplessly and shaking her head again. He actually wants to join forces with a hell demon to deal with angels. I asked him if there are no legends of heaven and hell here. Don't you have religion? He said of course, but he found a lot of books and saw a lot of secrets during his adventure. Among them, the so-called hell demon was actually originally a record of good gods. In the survival competition of the nation that believes in heaven, these original good gods were portrayed as demons. After this nation failed in the survival competition, their gods could no longer be vindicated, and could only continue to be the villains in other people's myths, until that nation, that civilization, also came to an end. Sarah looked at Ruger, just like the stories you told Tia, Minerva and others. Really? Ruger was very relieved to hear this. These things are not such great secrets for his hometown, and everyone can know if they want to know. But when he heard that Tia's father also knew and agreed with these things, he couldn't help but feel a little bit of favor towards this future father-in-law. In this case, it's no wonder that he gave those childhood friends of Tia those strange names. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 286. As for the name Sarah Kerrigan, I'm afraid that when she was digging for books, she also dug out a lot of games. Well, I don't know if she has ever dug out the Metal Max itself or the Diablo series. He was in a trance, and Sarah continued. So, we really formed an alliance. When he came back again, he said that he had helped me find a way to reincarnate. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. It turns out that the item in his hand that needs to come here to replenish energy can carry the soul and change its state of existence. It can just help me complete the reincarnation. As long as I trust him enough. To be honest, I didn't believe it at first. But when he showed it to me, I believe it completely. Guess what that thing is? Lugger blinked. Could it be the fragment of the world stone that forced you here? Ha, isn't it? Sarah smiled bitterly again. To be honest, when I saw that he took out that thing, I almost thought there was a god of fate in the world. But think about it again, the person who got the fragment of the world stone will come back to find me who was trapped by the fragment of the world stone. This doesn't seem to be fate, it's inevitable. This is the choice of the world stone. Okay. The choice of the world stone. It's good. At least it's not the choice of Steins Gate. Lugger complained silently. In fact, Sarah said to this extent that most of the mysteries that Lugger cared about could be explained. One thing that made Lugger feel a little complicated, Mr. Max, the future father-in-law, was not another time traveler. However, he was not much different from the time traveler. He was a protagonist, the son of the plane in the world of the lost. According to Sarah's previous introduction to the Supreme Heaven and the Burning Hell, it is obvious that the eternal war here is more complicated than the original series of Darkness. At least it is more complicated than what is shown in the original work. In addition to heaven and hell, there is only one sanctuary world, human world, in the original work. But according to the original setting, the eternal war between heaven and hell is a war that affects the entire universe, and there should be more planes. Now there is the world of the lost, or the earth of the lost, which is such a plane. Infinite apocalypse. Haha, the multiverse involved in the eternal war between the supreme heaven and hell is not an infinite apocalypse. According to the rhythm of the setting, in a corner of the universe, there is an emperor supported by the supreme heaven, and it is not impossible to fight an interstellar war with the four chaos evil gods, which are the variants of the hell demon god. What? Didn't the supreme heaven hate humans and creatures in human form? Well, can't the angels of the supreme heaven be divided into different areas? The lost ones are under the jurisdiction of the racist angel of courage Imperius, and the other side is under the jurisdiction of an angel close to humans, which is not impossible. The worldview is clear. Next is Sarah's reincarnation, Tia's old noise, and so on. Now, all are explained by the fragments of the world stone in the hands of old father-in-law Max. Then there is the matter of Sarah's command of the ghost. The strongest hunter Max mainly deals with ghost, and he must know the characteristics and structure of this thing very well. It is not impossible that he told his ally Sarah some ways to deal with or even use ghost. As for the rest, perhaps the point that Ruger wants to know most is the whereabouts of old father-in-law Max and mother-in-law Leah. No, there is one more thing. The cunning demon behind the Paladin Order Belial. The information revealed by Sarah before seems to be unable to explain this matter. But in fact, Ruger doesn't care much about this issue. If he has a clear enemy that he must kill now, it is this guy. Since they have decided to kill him, who cares why he came here and messed around instead of trying to deal with the Supreme? Wasn't it originally designed by him to banish and seal the three giants of hell to the world of sanctuary? He is a professional stabber in the back. In the end, the only problem left is the whereabouts of Tia's parents. Ruger was about to ask directly, but Sarah started talking again. Anyway, I successfully reincarnated as Sarah Kerrigan. According to him, this name is the name of a queen with both wisdom and power that he learned when he was digging for secrets. He hopes that I can have the same beautiful ending. Okay, right. Ruger even dragged out the complaints in his heart. He thought that his future father-in-law was wild enough. The Queen of Blades with both wisdom and power, right? Why not talk about the ghost agent who is always accompanied by love? In the end, she turned from a demon into a god. Isn't that the power of love? Hoo, if this queen wasn't too young after reincarnation, so that the would-be old Tarzan was embarrassed to take action, maybe Lugger would have to call her little girl now. Tisk tisk tisk. It seems that his would-be mother-in-law, Leah, is a little green. Sarah had no idea that his inner drama had turned into an emotional ethics drama, and he was still lost in reminiscence. In fact, my soul has been in the fragment of the world stone in his hand for a long time. Maybe it's because I've been there before, so I don't actually feel any discomfort. But he was very embarrassed. He kept running around during that time, just like helping me find a suitable carrier. At that time, if he heard that someone was pregnant, he would always congratulate him immediately. In fact, he just wanted to see if he could reincarnate me. However, every time he left in good spirits and came back in dismay. The body of a smaller fetus is too fragile and cannot bear my soul. But when the fetus is big enough to bear it, it will become conscious on its own. Replacing his own with my soul is also a form of murder in Max's eyes. In his words, he hoped that my reincarnation would be clean and free of new sins. In this way, as a spirit body, I followed him and walked through this land again. Finally one day, we found a suitable carrier. It was a ruins of the lost that had just been excavated not long ago, and there are still survivors living there. It is similar to your second shelter, probably a little bigger. But when we got there, it was completely looted and the original survivors were nowhere to be found. At that time, Rogtown was not the only gathering place for humans, but not all of the other survivors were friendly. When resources are scarce, some people are more willing to take it easy and reach out to other human beings. The ruins we went to must have been looted just now. All the living supplies have disappeared, and even the population has been looted. Only a few corpses are left. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai-Chi-Ji. Chapter 287. However, among these corpses, there was a little girl about 5 or 6 years old. Although the body looks a little thin due to lack of nutrition, the foundation is very good. She must have just died at that time, and her body still has the slightest warmth from her life. There are no external injuries, and the internal organs, bones and muscles are also intact. If Max and I hadn't confirmed that her soul had completely dissipated through double inspection, we would have even thought that she was still alive and just fell into a coma. Searched can on Google. So, I have a new body. With the help of the fragments of the World Stone, Max successfully helped my soul to perfectly integrate with this body. From that day on, I officially became a human. Well, so you look much older than Tia. So you are in your mid-20s, Ruger joked. Sarah rolled her eyes at him when she heard this. It's not a gentleman's behavior to talk about a lady's age. Besides, how much does age mean to you and me? This. Lugexen said that age is meaningless to an eternal demon like you, but it does mean something to me. I'm not really a 50-year-old popsicle. So, you are actually a lost human being? But why can you become Rog? Luge thought for a while and asked. Well, lost humans cannot become Nephilim. This is the summary of the experience of Rogtown for many years. Sarah nodded, then shook her head and said, but this is not absolute. The world of the lost is just because it is on the edge of this universe and there is no magical nourishment from the supreme heaven or the burning hell, so the people here do not have a high affinity for magic. However, lost humans do not have enough affinity for magic, but my soul does not. In fact, because the lost humans do not have enough affinity for magic, it is best to be my carrier. In this way, I can avoid unconsciously communicating with the burning hell when I use magic power after reincarnation, causing more unnecessary trouble. Well, so you didn't become another Nephilim, but you chose Rog's power system that was a compromise between Nephilims and ordinary humans, Luge nodded thoughtfully. Yes, and this will also help me, an orphan, to better integrate into Rogtown, Sarah nodded. Is it Mr. Max's suggestion again? He is really a warm man, Ruger sighed with some humor. Yes, Max is a very gentle person, Sarah sighed. However, sometimes this gentleness is not without its disadvantages. He took the reincarnated me back to Rogtown to live there forever. It was okay at first, because I awakened Rog's qualifications at a young age and began to receive Rog basic training. The local gangsters in the town did not dare to cause trouble for me, an outsider. But slowly we discovered that someone else was actually watching me. That person is not Rog. He is a necromancer who prefers the bone system. His acting style is also sneaky and secretive. Soon we confirmed that it was not Rog who was secretly observing or even testing me. After some planning, Max caught him. Under our questioning, he told the reason. It turns out that he knows me, or in other words, my body. He thought I was dead, but Max revived me and brought me back to Rogtown. And not only did I come back from the dead, I also suddenly had Rog qualifications. These things make him think that Max, or I, holds some secret to resurrection from the dead. He wanted to find out. Of course we didn't believe it, so we continued the interrogation. Finally, he told the truth. It turns out that he didn't just want to explore our secrets. He actually wanted to resurrect a person. His wife. Wife? He is a necromancer who wants to resurrect his wife. Ruger listened and suddenly remembered another similar story he had just heard from Anya not long ago. Yes, Sarah nodded and continued, this time, he didn't lie. Although I no longer have the strength to burn the Queen of Pain in hell, the methods or techniques of causing pain are still in my mind. Interrogation is not difficult for me. The aura on Sarah's face when she said this made Ruger feel like he had met the Queen of Blades. It was a fierce aura unique to a decisive and decisive superior. There are not many people with this kind of aura, and even fewer women. No wonder Mr. Max gave her such a name. Just listen to Sarah continue, under my methods, he collapsed, but he did not completely collapse. He knelt on the ground and cried bitterly. While pleading, he still held Max's leg and wouldn't let go. His plea was not for us to let him go, but for us to let his wife live. Honestly, coming back from the dead is not a particularly difficult thing. As long as you are well prepared and willing to pay the price. His wife has been dead for a long time. Even if the body is still there, the soul has long since dissipated. If he still wants to resurrect her under such circumstances, the price he has to pay is far beyond what a little necromancer like him can afford. In response to his pleas, Max decisively refused. But the man said that he knew no one would agree to such a request, so he secretly observed me and wanted to find the secret of my resurrection. Hey, he is sure that I am resurrected? Don't you think there is something wrong here? Ruger thought for a while and said. Generally speaking, even if he knows you, knows the original little girl, and knows what happened to the ruins, why can he insist that the girl is dead and has died? Under normal circumstances, wouldn't it be more reasonable for the girl to fake her death and be revived by someone? It's abnormal for him to be so sure. Unless, the little girl was killed by him. He is a necromancer. It may be difficult for others to let an ordinary little girl without magic power die without any damage but with her soul dissipated, but it is much easier for him. After hearing Ruger say this, Sarah looked him up and down for a while and smiled. Sure enough, we are more compatible. Yes, I told Max the same thing. But, as I said, he is very gentle, but sometimes, gentleness is not always a good thing. He thinks my analysis makes sense, but there is no evidence. Under the premise of no evidence, he will not do anything to that person. He just used means to scare him so that he dare not trouble me again, and then let him go. Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 288. However, that man can still insist on resurrecting his wife even under my means. His obsession is far stronger than Max thought. After that, although he didn't bother me again, we could always hear rumors that he had angered so and so in order to find the secret of resurrection. After that, this person was slowly forgotten by us. Until one day, the alarm bells went off in the town, saying that a family had an accident. When I went there, I realized it was that person's home. He is a necromancer. His home is a bit scary and spooky, and there are some weird bottles and jars, which are normal. But the weirdness in their home is far more terrifying than a normal necromancer's home. I won't go into details. But certainly he tried to resurrect his wife again. This time, he found a cult. A cult? Ruger asked. Ha, it seems a bit strange for me to say this word, right? Sarah smiled. I'm used to it now. A cult is something like a spy planted among humans when the demon from the burning hell invaded the world of Sanctuary. Because subconsciously I still think of myself as Andariel, so when I noticed some signs, I didn't pay attention. But I didn't expect that this man actually got connected with the cult. He actually prayed to the devil and made the request to resurrect his wife. Tisk, as I said before, resurrection is not a particularly difficult task, but it does require paying some price. I know he can't afford it, so I won't help him. But he doesn't know that. He probably made a deal with the devil first and sacrificed his own children in exchange for his wife's partial resurrection. But if you use your children to resurrect blood relatives, you can only resurrect the body at most, but not the soul. Even if the wife survives, she will not have the memory of the past. The man should be devastated by this result. Perhaps I also made a request to the devil to cancel the transaction and restore the original situation, and exchange the children back. As a result, in this second transaction, not only the wife, but also the man himself will be sacrificed. In short, of this original family of 4, only one person survived. It's just that even I can't deduce who this person who survived is. Because she is too young, still a few years old. From a soul perspective, she has some aura from all 4 of them. A child's soul is inherently changeable and has infinite possibilities. In addition, she is a daughter and is blood related to the other 3 people. It is normal for her soul to be contaminated by other people's breath. If I can't tell the difference, it's impossible for anyone else in Rogtown to tell the difference. Then the final conclusion drawn by Rogtown will be that only this daughter of this family survived. Kalia Ruger whispered the name. Yes, the only female necromancer, Kalia. Sarah nodded. It turns out that this is the true version of Kalia's story. Luge sighed, always feeling that there was a blockage somewhere and it felt boring. But soon, he thought of something again and asked quickly, "Oh, Mr. Max won't get the name Kalia again, right?" No, Sarah shook her head, but it's not the girl's original name either. It was a name she chose. What? Lugger was surprised. She is too young. She has just remembered things and doesn't have much memory at all. It is normal for her to be unable to remember her own name or to remember it incorrectly. After Sarah explained, she looked at Ruger and asked, "What, is there anything wrong with this name?" "Oh, Mr. Max, haven't I told you?" Ruger asked without answering. Sarah said angrily, "When these things happened, he was traveling with Tia's mother. How could he remember to come back to see me?" Tisk, it smells like vinegar. You said you have nothing else on your mind? Luge sighed, but then started thinking about Kalia. Could it be that, unlike other strange names, this one is really a coincidence? No. If it's just a coincidence in the name, forget it, but this Kalia really has the ability to use holy light and necromancy at the same time. It's clear that she is taking the path of casting undead with light. Even this is the same, it's hard to say it's a coincidence. Furthermore, all this was caused by the Hell Demon. If he had nothing to do with the transaction, it would not be impossible to throw Kalia from other planes over. The key lies in the demon god of hell. Since he was suspicious, Luch simply asked Sarah directly, that demon is Belial, the king of lies. That bastard is even more despicable than the angels. Sarah gritted her teeth at the mention of this name. Ruger thought that it was indeed him, and nodded hurriedly, but had no reaction to Sarah's statement that angels were used as despicable standards. If angels use demons as a synonym for despicableness, then demons must in turn define angels in this way. Charging extra commissions for repeated transactions like before is what this bastard loves to do. Mortals who make deals with him will eventually have their souls deceived by him. Yaruger nodded and asked, "This guy was thrown here when the world stone was broken." "That's not true." Sarah paused and calmed down a little before continuing, "That guy didn't even participate in the World Stone War and has been hiding in the burning hell. As a result, after the whereabouts of those of us who participated in the war were unknown, he became the only demon king left behind. Not only did he take the opportunity to expand his territory, but his strength also increased rapidly. Judging from the breath he left in the necromancer's house, I wonder if he took the opportunity to kill another demon king and absorb the other's power. My feeling is that his strength in the burning hell is almost as strong as the top 3 demons among the 7 demon kings." "Demon level?" Luger asked. "Well, that's right." Sarah nodded. "So, is this the reason why Nabilia changed from the king of lies to the cunning devil?" Luch suddenly felt that he was really lucky to have a boss to guide him. A lot of dusty mysteries can be solved by just saying a few words in the carriage. In short, after that guy's strength increased, his appetite also increased. Sarah continued. He became interested in this remote area after being drawn to this remote area by the necromancer's prayers. He began to use the cult planted by the hated demon Mephisto in the world of Sanctuary, and slowly corrupted more people, eventually forming today's Order of the Holy Knights. Well, by the way, when something happened to the necromancer's house, not only did I detect the smell of Belial there, but there was another person who should have noticed it as well. "Who?" Ruger asked. "You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Infinite Doomsday Start draws Luodu mechanic. Author, Shanmao Aichiji. Chapter 289. Akara. Google to read Sarah's side. As I write this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. As a senior nun of the blind eye, she is no stranger to the breath of hell. However, perhaps out of the protection of her daughter, the protection of her granddaughter, or perhaps for other reasons, she did not announce this matter to the public. But I still remember the look of shock and confusion in her eyes as she looked at that scene. She must know. That old woman is just a mortal, but her ability is not bad. She can even detect my gaze and glance at me intentionally or unintentionally. If I hadn't seen that I was at a curious age, I would have suspected me a long time ago. What am I afraid of? Hearing this, Luch recalled the words of Akara conveyed by Luch's bodyguard before, telling him to be careful about Sarah, and now he was on the right track again. He looked at Sarah, who was still sighing, shook his head silently, and said to himself that people have suspected you for a long time, but they just held it in for a lifetime and didn't say anything. She sensed the devil's aura, but didn't mention it to anyone else. However, there were also the eyes and ears of the cult who were present at the time, and they also noticed her reaction. Perhaps Belial knew from that day that using this incident, along with some other means, he could coerce her into submission and have to cooperate with the evil cult. In short, with Thee's help, Belial gradually discovered more secrets in this area. For example, Andariel's secret. Oh, when Luodu heard this, he subconsciously thought that Sarah's secret had been discovered. Could it be that Akara betrayed her when she was controlled by Belial? But when he thought about it again, he felt something was wrong. If Belial had discovered that Sarah was Andariel, wouldn't he have taken action against Sarah long ago? Will you wait until now? Even a few days ago, the Holy Knight Order suddenly went to its own territory to ambush Sarah. The main purpose was to target the rogue troops in the monastery, not Sarah herself. What on earth is going on? Seeing Ruger looking at her in confusion, Sarah shrugged and said, "We, Max and I, made a mistake. We all subconsciously thought that Andariel would cease to exist after I was reincarnated. However, the demon body that I left in the catacombs of the cathedral actually gave birth to another consciousness after me. If I have to say it, I am just a human being with the memory of Andariel in my previous life. She is the real demon king of pain. However, this new pain demon king is not very intelligent and his skills are extremely limited. He only relies on brute force. It's far worse than what I was in my heyday." "Yes, yes." Luodu nodded while listening, thinking that of course it was right no matter what she said. Who can say no? Then Belial discovered Andariel and began to have ideas about her. If he kills Andariel, he can absorb the power belonging to the demon king of pain. It's nothing if his strength rises again. I'm just afraid that after gaining my power, he can follow the clues to find me, or even Max, and... With that said, Sarah turned to look at Luger and said solemnly, "This is the ultimate purpose of telling you these things. I want to ask you to do me a favor. Kill Andariel for me. Help me get back Andariel's power." Indeed it is. When he heard her say that Andalil appeared again in Andalil's body, Luodu understood why she would lead Luodu to counter-attack the monastery cathedral so radically. He even used magic gems to buy arms from Luger without blinking an eye. He understood better why the Holy Knight Order saw her advance so quickly, and not only did they not help, but instead restricted her in various ways, and finally even went out to chase and intercept her in person. It turns out that the big boss at the end of the first act is a large treasure chest, whether it is Sarah or Belial. They are robbing the treasure. Regarding Sarah's invitation to help, Luger of course had only one word: okay. But there was one thing that surprised him. If it had been in the past, the system would have prompted the task to be triggered at the same time Sarah asked for his help. However, this time, there was no movement at all. Is it possible that because Luger's points balance is too high, the system thinks that he does not need the assistance of the task module and cancels this function? Although he does not need to make money from tasks anymore, no matter how small a fly's legs are, they are still meat. Anyway, I have to help out when I need to, wouldn't it be nice to make some extra money? However, although he was a little resentful about the changes in the system, Luger still patted his chest to Sarah and continued, "How about going now?" Sarah was immediately amused by his overly aggressive showmanship and burst into laughter. "Don't be busy. There are some things that I haven't explained to you clearly yet. There's no point in going now." She calmed down, waved her hand to Luger and said, "Leave aside the question of whether I can beat the new Andariel. If I want to get the power of the Pain Demon King in her, I can't just kill her. That guy Belial can do this because he is originally the Demon King of Hell and can directly absorb the power of the Demon King from the same source, but I can't. Or, I don't want to do it. If I take this path, I will become Andariel, the Queen of Pain again. It's still the devil of hell. It's very likely that it will become a door to leave. I still can't be free. In that case, my previous reincarnation will be in vain." Hiss. There is such a thing. Just listening to Sarah's description, Ruger knew that the problem was troublesome. That's right, Belial went to kill the new Andariel, which should be similar to the original 3 generations of Diablo absorbing the souls of other devils sealed in the Black Soul Stone, and can directly absorb the opponent's power. This kind of power is not a relatively simple energy such as electrical energy, thermal energy, or magic power. Probably, it is still something like the divine Godhead in other magic worlds next door. The moral concept is deified, personified, which sounds very troublesome. What should I do? Ruger asked, half thinking and half curiously. Well, this is the key to why I want to ask you for help, Sarah nodded. Max was not idle during his travels. He verified the method to solve this problem and achieved initial success. After he came back, he also taught me the method in detail. Oh, it's really hard for him. Tisk tisk, Ruger couldn't help shaking his head in his heart when he heard it, thinking that this guy just said that others went out to travel and he was jealous, and now he is so nostalgic. Really, is he arrogant? How can I not see it? Sarah didn't know what he was thinking in his mind, and continued to explain. Although I haven't tried it completely, I think this method is very feasible. So, this time, I hope you can help me try it. Infinite Doomsday Start Draws Luodu Mechanic. Author, Shan Mao Ai Chi Ji. Chapter 290. Okay, you go ahead. Seeing Sarah looking at him again, Ruger quickly suppressed his complaints and nodded solemnly. Google search Furtkin. In fact, we have mentioned the core of this concept before. It is also because you have shown a tendency to agree with this concept that I decided to ask you for help. When you were in the ghostly cave, you told Tia Minerva and the others that you did not think that the gods were good and the devil was evil. You said that in the eyes of the lost, gods are synonymous with human helpers whose origins could not be clearly explored. Almost all primitive human tribes have their own gods, and generally believe that they or the leaders they follow are the descendants of this god. Primitive human tribes attack each other. If they eventually merge into a new tribe, the god of the victorious tribe will become the main god, and the god of the annexed tribe will become the subordinate god. But if two tribal alliances attack each other, and in the end no one can do anything to each other, they will begin to attack each other in terms of concepts. They will slander each other's gods as evil gods, and even devils and demons. Yes, Ruger nodded in agreement. In fact, there are some details that Sarah did not say all. At that time, Ruger also complained about the history of the Lost Ones. For example, in the Lost Ones civilization, the word devil actually originated from the god of an ancient tribe's hostile tribe. And the god of the same tribe also has a word similar to the devil in its hostile tribe, called Azura. When monotheism developed from a small local religion to a large cross-regional sect, it absorbed a lot of things from other civilizations. Among them was the dualism of good and evil from the primitive religion of ancient Persia. The primitive religion of ancient Persia has a famous descendant religion, Zoroastrianism, also known as fire worship, also known as Zoroastrianism. When monotheism developed in Mesopotamia, it borrowed a lot from these things from the neighbor next door to the east. And the previous generation of ancient Persia, the ancient Aryan tribe, also had a hostile tribe that was of the same ethnic group but had bad relations and fought against each other, and neither could do anything to the other. As ancient Persia moved westward, this hostile tribe could only move southward, gradually conquering the South Asian subcontinent and establishing another famous religion based on the original religion, Veda. Later, on this basis, other Samana sects such as Brahmanism and Buddhism were developed. Simply put, it is the concept of the devil in Zoroastrianism, which later derived the devil in monotheism, and it is also the god in the Vedas. The gods in Zoroastrianism were regarded as devils by the Vedas, and later introduced into China with Buddhism, namely Azura. In Ruger's view, this is a classic case to explain that the opposition between gods and demons in human beliefs is actually false. In particular, when the concept of yin and yang restraining each other, opposing unity and mutual transformation is introduced, The so-called dispute between heaven and hell is no longer a struggle between good and evil in Ruger's view, but just a survival war between two tribes. Well, heaven and hell restrain each other, two sides of the same coin, opposing unity. Is this what it means? Sarah recalled and recounted. Oh, they are all right, but it feels a bit strange coming from your mouth. After all, you are a demon king. Ruger complained in his heart, but nodded quickly, yes. Ha, the core of Max's method is your concept. Extreme emotions are not absolute, they can be transformed into each other. Every extreme emotion has its opposite. Hate the demon god, hatred is hatred caused by love. Its opposite is love, and it is universal love, that is, kindness, forgiveness and the like. Destroy the demon god, destruction is to recreate, because the creation failed, or it is not satisfactory, and you want to start from scratch. Just like a child building a sand castle, it feels ugly, so he just knocks it down and starts over. Andariel is the queen of pain, and her power comes from the pain of spirit and thought. For example, love but cannot gather, and seeking but cannot. This emotion is extremely negative, and this is the power of pain. But it also has a positive opposite, another side. The opposite of pain is joy and pleasure. The joy of everything going as one wishes and everything coming true. The joy of being in harmony with the one you love. The power of joy is the power of pain. In this way, I will no longer be the queen of pain Andariel, but the corresponding heroic spirit, the good God. Among the secrets Max found, there is a very similar name of God, Anatomy. The goddess of war and joy, who loves war, and enjoys pleasure. Sounds pretty good. It's pretty good, it sounds like Athena. Tisk tisk, is this why you went to Gaime to subdue the 12 saints? Ruger complained in his heart. So, can you help me? Help me complete the transformation from the queen of pain to the goddess of pleasure. Seeing Sarah looking at him with burning eyes, Ruger didn't react at first. But while mumbling and pondering the meaning of the word pleasure, he suddenly shuddered, quickly put his hands in front of his chest, and hid his body backwards. What? What do you want me to accompany you to do? No, no. I'm a decent man, I won't do this. Seeing his reaction, Sarah was a little confused at first. But when she saw the cunning and teasing in his eyes, she knew that this guy was playing tricks again. You're going to die. After realizing what he meant, Sarah punched him on the shoulder again in a bad mood. It just happened to use the Queen of Pain technique, leaving him uninjured but in great pain. Someone couldn't help but take a breath. Humph, is it comfortable? Do you want to do it again? I guarantee that you will feel pain and pleasure, Sarah snorted. Simply, I'll just transform it like this, and I'll make you feel pain and pleasure. No. Ruger was shocked. The goddess of pleasure who is in pain and pleasure? Isn't this like Xiao S and Xiao M are together? Hiss. It seems that the original appearance of the Queen of Pain Andariel is like this. Seeing that Ruger's eyes were wandering, as if he was thinking about something bad again, Sarah couldn't help but raise her fist and hit him on the shoulder again. Ah! What are you doing again? Ruger cried out in pain. Sorry, it just came out of nowhere. However, looking at her like that, how could she feel embarrassed? She clearly looked like this guy feels really good to beat up. After a while of fighting, Sarah finally wanted to get the topic back on track after she calmed down. Humph. Men, you think about those things all day long. Don't think about those nonsense anymore. I warn you.